What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Extra Innings Podcast. I am your host, Elijah Rodriguez. Wow, my hair looks terrible this morning. We are here today with another episode. So, fair disclosure here, guys. We had some technical difficulties. So, this is the second time I've recorded this episode here. I don't quite know what happened to the previous one. There's something with Riverside where like the clips just didn't render and like the audio was all jacked up. So, we're going to redo this one. Hopefully, I can capture the same essence I had the first time. I think I will, because this is a pretty interesting topic. So, like I said in that episode, yesterday was a pretty lackluster day in baseball. Nothing like crazy happened. Obviously, in the world of baseball, it's the longest season in all of professional sports. You know, they play 162 games a year. There are going to be some days where nothing really happens. It's just a game of baseball, and that's always a good thing. Like a day of baseball is always a good day of baseball. But when there's not, throwing people out, they don't know who they're throwing out, or dudes getting rocked on a throwback to the pitcher in the face, or anything crazy like that. No bee swarms, nothing. It's like, you're like, I wish something wild would have happened. But there are those days. And that's part of being a baseball fan. But today, and I was kind of stuck between a couple different topics, like I said, because we didn't have what do you call it? We didn't have a whole lot of crazy shit happening yesterday. Sorry, I'm messing with my audio here. I thought, okay, what can we talk about? And there was something. I was going through my camera roll of my notes, and I saw that I had taken a screenshot of this picture and put it next to this thought, and it was like Craig Kimbrel ? And I thought about it, and I was like, we could talk about Craig Kimbrel. And honestly, and it's a pretty wild topic, especially with some of the trade rumors going around, people that have been put on the trade block a little bit early this year, as a trade deadline normally is in July. So I wanted to talk about Craig Kimbrel because I saw Statline, and obviously the Orioles are one of the hottest teams in baseball. I think some power rankings have them at number one. They've been going off. They're a young team. They got Cowser, Henderson, Rutschman. They got Jackson Holiday in their back pocket. They picked up Corbin Burns this past year. So they've got some really solid pieces on that team that are making them play really well. They're a strong team. They're hard to beat, have not been swept for a while now. I was listening to TV a little bit earlier about MLB Network, and they were talking about that. They have been swept in a good chunk of time. So they are a strong team. Now, where they're lacking, I think, at this point is in that closer role. And that's where we enter Craig Kimbrel, right? So I saw a picture that I screenshotted, and it said that Craig Kimbrel in his last two save opportunities, and it was a little dated, so I took the screenshot back on Friday of last week. So we're almost a week later. And I didn't want to talk about it because I am a fan of Craig Kimbrel, and I think Craig Kimbrel is going to probably go in the Hall of Fame. He's got like 400 and something career saves. So he's solidified himself as an elite closer in Major League Baseball, which is a feat in itself. But obviously he's entering the latter end of his career. He's 35. He's done the bounce around. Last year he was with Philly, and he just had some really he was on the struggle bus a lot of last year with Philly, especially in the postseason. I remember watching him in the postseason. Every time they gave him the ball, I was like, I don't know how this is going to go. And most times it went south. A lot of walks. He's been wild. Again, here's the thing about Craig Kimbrel. He's been wild a good chunk of his career, right? He's been a wild guy, but a lot of times he's been effectively wild. He's a 1-2 punch kind of guy. He's got that electric fastball. He used to be in the hundreds. Now he's about the mid-90s. He'll still run it up to 97, 98. Haven't seen a 99 to 100 from him in a long time. Though he was always just kind of scraping the 100. He was normally 97 to 99. Now he's probably like 94 to 96, 97. So not as electric, but still very much electric. That's still the average Major League fastball, or above average Major League fastball. He still throws absolute gas, right? And then he's got that kind of like spike curve that he throws. That's like his 1-2 punch, right? So, but he's been effectively wild. Like that's kind of his thing. He's been that way since he was with Atlanta, since he got his start with Atlanta. He was known as the guy who does this. He still does that. And it's just iconic. It's iconic. Everyone's going to know that. It was released to Kimbrel. He's been solidified in this game. He's been around for a long time. So respect to Craig Kimbrel. But at the same time, we got to talk about the struggles, right? As much as we're going to talk about the success and the joy and everything, we got to talk about the struggles. Now, in the picture that I took a picture of, or I screenshotted, it showed Craig Kimbrel, and it was like in his last two save opportunities, he's thrown 90 pitches, which in itself is egregious. That means that in each outing, he's thrown 45 pitches in the ninth. And he's surrendered 14 bags. He's given up 7 walks and 6 earned runs. Now, as a closer, it's pretty hard to win ball games when your closer's going out there and giving up 3 a night. That can pretty much either turn the game on its head, kill an entire lead, lose the lead, yada, 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 right? So there's a lot of different things that can happen, especially with 3 runs in the ninth or the eighth, ninth. And if you're in extras, even then it can end the game. It can really turn the whole tide of the whole ball game. So to have an elite closer, a guy who can come in and say, fuck you, you're done, game over. If I take the mound, you're done is very important. And I think when you put numbers of what Kimbrel's done or what Kimbrel's trying to accomplish next to a true closer, as in like Clay Holmes, who is 18 for 18 in save opportunities for the most part. He's not 18. That's a little egregious. I think he's got 18 innings and I think he's got 18 saves, but he's 1-0. Craig Kimbrel's 4-1, 3.86 ERA. Clay Holmes with a 0 ERA. That's a true closing stat line, right? That's some Mariano Rivera shit, right? Clay Holmes for the Yankees is the true epitome of what you need in a closer. He comes in, you're not scoring, bro. It's game over. And that's what Clay Holmes has been able to do. But then you look at a stat line like Craig Kimbrel, who's 4-1, 3.86 ERA, which again, a 3.86 is not that bad. It's not like the worst thing in the world, because there is way worse. I mean, you could look at a Presley over in Houston or something like that, and that is bad. Or a Hader in Houston, that is really bad, right? So, but we look here, he's got 19 games appeared in, right? So he's played in 19 games. He has saved less than half. He has 8 saves in 16 innings. So he's a little less, well, in innings. Okay, so he's pitched in 19 games. He's got 16 innings pitched, right? So it's probably a little bit, I'd say he's under 50% saves, right? Because you got to take into account of all the other stuff, right? So he's not doing that great. He's been okay in some pieces. I know he's been in some jams and he's gotten out of it, but that's not really what you're looking for, especially in an elite closer like Craig Kimbrel. So begs the question, what are we going to do? What are the Orioles going to do with Craig Kimbrel? Now we've heard, I did some research this morning, talking and they were talking to Brandon Hyde, who's the manager, obviously, of Baltimore. And he's sure that he's their guy. He's like, he's a Hall of Famer. He's going to be our guy. There's no questions about it. We just got to get him going. He's a Hall of Famer, yada, yada, yada. I think they're going to give him some time maybe to just kind of recoup, kind of get his shit back together, I think would be a smart move. But at the same time, one has to think you've got a really young team. Now, I say they're young, but it was funny. I was watching MLB Network yesterday, and they were like, yeah, they're a very young team, but they don't play like a young team, which is super interesting to me. I'm like, okay, let me kind of look at this stuff. They got Kowser, who's young. They've got Gunnar Henderson, who's super young. Adley Rutschman's young. I mean, Corbin Burns is almost 30. He's still very young. He's still very early in his career. So they got a lot of young guys who have maybe 2, 3, 4 years of major league experience, which is still very much green in their eyes, right? So that's really awesome that they have this really young team. Now, some of these older pieces of it, you're kind of like, okay, what are we going to do? What's the move? Are we going to really build something up here? Like, we've got something really perfect here. What are we going to do, right? So my thought process, as they've sat Craig Kimbrel these last couple of nights, right, letting him kind of recoup, reevaluate some stuff, maybe work on some pen stuff, see what's going on, what's going wrong, maybe work on some control. They've been actually using a couple different they've been using some middle relievers kind of just by committing it, like 7, 8, 9. This guy will get it tonight, you'll get it tomorrow, blah, blah. They're just kind of rotating guys through. That's kind of been the strategy so far since kind of Kimbrel's been struggling, like seriously struggling, right? He's always been a little shaky, but now he's really struggling, right? So they've kind of been trying to piece things together. And here's where things get interesting now. So that's what they've been doing now in the meantime, which obviously hasn't hurt them very much because they're still winning ball games. Like I said, haven't been swept. So they're still winning games this route without Kimbrel in the mix for right now, right? So begs the question, trade deadline's coming up. They've only signed, and this is what a lot of people don't understand. When they signed Kimbrel, he signed for a 1-year, $13 million deal, right? So they still have hopes. Say they have hopes is still, it's not the right way to say it, because they're sure that, Bautista went out last year. He gets hurt, needs Tommy John. They knew he was going to be gone for the rest of last year, and he's going to be gone for, all of this year, and then you're hoping to get him back in 2025, right? So they're sure that in 2025, they'll get Bautista back, because Bautista was electric. He was a lights-out closer. He was their guy, and he was fun to watch too. And I remember watching that game. I was watching that game live when I saw him throw that pitch, and he did he throws it, and he starts doing this, and starts, doing. I'm like, immediately I saw it, I was like, that man needs Tommy John, and he's a very high effort. I got to just come in there and give it. And I think that's why he blew it out. I mean, he threw in the hundreds. He throws really hard, and that's going to go hand in hand with the whole other conversation of the elbow epidemic, Tommy John epidemic. So we'll kind of cut that there, right? So Felix Bautista, in their eyes, is still their guy, plain and simple, right? And they want him back in 2025. So they signed Kimbrel to a 1-year deal. It's 1 year, $13 million deal. They got him from Philly because Philly didn't re-sign him. They let him go, let him play the free agent market, and rightfully so. Smart. They have they have Strom. They have a strong bullpen. They didn't really technically need Kimbrel, and especially after some of his performances last year, it was like, yeah, we're going to take our chances elsewhere, and they just parted ways. Orioles pick him up. They see a veteran closer, a veteran guy who could probably do some damage if he can really hone his stuff together for these next couple of years. He can be a guy. So they say, we'll give you a 1 year because we need a closer. Bautista's out. Fill this role for us for the year while we need it, right? So he's really just a substitute in my eyes. Could be wrong, but I think he's just a substitute for the year while Bautista is rehabbing. But here's where it gets interesting. They brought him in to fill that role thinking, we need you to do this job and this job only. And right now he's not doing that job. He's not doing it. Well, he's attempting to do the job, but he's not really fully there, right? So what are they going to do with him, right? So right now they're doing okay without having him in there. Do they trade him at the deadline? That's something that I was kind of digging into. There's been little bits of talks about it. Did they trade Kimbrel? The Orioles manager is sure, Hyde is sure that he's their guy. Yeah. But I also see this as like, okay, if you're talking to front office and they're like, hey, we got to sit Kimbrel. Let's work on some other things. Don't throw Kimbrel back out there. Let's work with some of these other guys we got. They start saying that. Is Hyde going to be smart and say, well, we're very open to finding a new closer. If he's going to say that to the media, it's going to red flag in Kimbrel, maybe change some dynamics within the clubhouse. There's going to be some ill will, some bad hard feelings. So maybe I'm thinking that maybe he just said that, hands are clean. I as of right now, Kimbrel's our guy, right? So that's what Hyde's saying. And as a coach, that is the right answer. Truly. I mean, it's like you want your guys to perform. You don't want to, cause more anxiety. Obviously, this is not an easy time for Kimbrel. If he's struggling, he's obviously probably not taking it that well. Why are you going to throw more fire by saying, yeah, we're looking for a reliever? But every other fucking analyst in baseball is saying the Orioles are definitely going to be looking for a long-time reliever or someone to fix that closer role because Kimbrel clearly has not showcased the stuff that we're used to seeing from him. So with that being said, and I made an Instagram video about it. So if you want the faster, quicker, thoughts on it, you can go check that out on TikTok and Instagram and Twitter. But my thought, and in all honesty, and this is a hot take, I know with Mason Miller heating up over in Oakland, he's a hot commodity right now. I don't think there's a better landing spot for Mason Miller than in Baltimore. He's young. He fits that same kind of genre of player. All these young guys who are up and coming, just getting their career started, but are electric future superstars. Mason Miller fits that mold so perfectly. They need another long reliever. They need somebody to fill that closing role. Maybe they do acquire Miller. I don't know. And then they move Bautista to like a setup role in the eighth, and maybe they piggyback the eighth and ninth next year with Bautista and Miller. I don't know, right? But you have to stop and think, is there a better spot for Mason Miller to land? I don't think there is. I think that this is the spot. Now, what does scare a lot of people off, and this was news about last week, and I should have reported on it, but it kind of fell between the cracks with all the other stuff that was happening, was the price tag on Miller. Now, there's a big question. Are the A's going to trade Miller? The question is 100% yes, they're going to trade Miller. They're going to cash in on that. That's the thing about the A's. And obviously I've had a whole episode talking about the Oakland Athletics and their thought process and their stupidity, right? Like they pick great talent and then they sell great talent. They don't win ball games. The A's are not in any sort of position to want to go out and win a World Series because their front office, their management don't treat it that way. They think, okay, we can draft all these great players and then flip them. They're like buying old houses and flipping them, right? So they're buying these kids, they're drafting these new players. They're elite players. Like right now they have, Rooker's going off. He's going to get dealt, no doubt. They had Donaldson, they had Olsen, they had Simeon. There's so many great superstars that have come from Oakland that eventually get sold that it's like there's just why would it change now? Why are you now going to keep Mason Miller for what? They're going to sell him. But apparently, reportedly, the prices have been insane. Like people laughing like this is ridiculous. Like we can't swing that. It's insane. Like your asking price is so high. Obviously, it's only May. Trade deadline's in July, so there's still time for these guys to make some deals to fix some stuff. Maybe once the A's kind of work through the weeds a little bit and they kind of, hone it down to a couple true suitors for Mason Miller, the price becomes more reasonable. I think that to be true. But back to the Orioles and Craig Kimbrel, I think if I was the Orioles, I would put at least an offer for Miller. The only issue that I'm seeing, and this is where I think we'll run into some issues with that kind of transaction, is the value, right? So Mason Miller's stock value is through the fucking roof. I mean, it's through the roof. But at the same time, I don't know what their cash cap is or where they got what their money's at. They're going to have to give up more than Kimbrel in this trade for Miller. They have to. because the values are, it's not an equal trade in no shape. No, in no world universe is this the same equal trade. There's going to have to be pieces that come from Baltimore to get Mason Miller. There's no question, whether that's cash considerations on top of Kimbrel, whether that's Kimbrel, maybe 2-3 top prospects with cash considerations. I just know the price is going to be high for Baltimore to make that transaction. But I think that if they can kind of figure it out, if they can piece it together, if they can go through the farm system and pick maybe their 2-3 top prospects with Kimbrel and trade it, I think it's worth it, because right now you've got a lot of great guys, man. You got a lot of great guys. You got a young team. You've got a great farm system. You got another great prospect in your back pocket who struggled a bit, but I think that we're not worried about that. He's going to come up and do some great things. But I truly think that Miller is the spot for Baltimore. I think Baltimore is the spot for Miller, in all honesty. So time will tell, man. It's just an interesting time, and with how well the Orioles have been playing, I felt like there wasn't a better time to talk about this. But it's going to be interesting to see, will they keep Kimbrel in that spot? Are they going to let him work through his stuff and then come back and kind of see where he's at? I don't know. I really don't know. I think on paper that's what the move they're going to make, but in all honesty, behind the scenes, I think that they're cooking some stuff up, trying to figure something out. But let me know what you guys think. Am I way the fuck off? Is there another guy that maybe they acquire? Because obviously there's a chance they get somebody else. It's not Mason Miller. They go after another They go after another long reliever, or they go after somebody else who can come in and fill that role just as well. Because hopping off Mason Miller a second, because everyone's all over that dude. I mean, he's good. He's great. Don't get me wrong. He's electric. But there are a lot of other great relievers out there that can also get the job done, who can also come in and fill that closer role. Maybe not as well as, Clay Holmes, but you can get a decent reliever for Craig Kimbrel, no doubt. So let me know what you guys think. Will Kimbrel stay in Oriole? I don't think he stays one after this year regardless, but will he stay in Oriole for the rest of this year? Will he get dealt? Will they move him to another spot in the bullpen? Will they trade for him? It's really up in the air, guys. I don't know. Time will tell. I hate talking about this stuff because, like I said, I've been a huge fan of Craig Kimbrel for a long time, since he broke into the league back in 2010, 11. He's been the guy, right? Released to Kimbrel. So wishing nothing but the best for him. Obviously, I want him to come back. I want him to be electric, because when Craig Kimbrel is on, he is nasty. He is dirty. He will shut the door, but there's a key point to that. He's got to be on. So we will see what happens. Like I said, let me know what you guys think. Are there any other trade rumors that you think might happen with this transaction between Kimbrel, or if he stays? Let me know what you think. All Orioles fans, let me know what you think. But yeah, guys, thanks for listening, man. It's been fun doing this, dude. I'm having a blast doing this, man. We got a lot of content on YouTube Shorts. We got stuff on TikTok. Follow us on TikTok. Follow us on Instagram, man. We got a lot of short form content, a lot of cool stuff on there. So go give it a look. Go give it a follow on YouTube. Like, follow, subscribe, all the above. Like I said, I don't even know if follow is a thing, but like, subscribe, all that stuff, man. YouTube, check that out. Right. So tomorrow we're more than likely going to do a power rankings, because I haven't done a power rankings this week. Although there haven't been really much shifts between 1, 2, and 4, in my opinion. I have to go through and I'm going to write them down and kind of go through some stuff. But more than likely going to do a power rankings episode tomorrow. So be ready for that. But again, guys, thanks for listening. Like I said, I'm having a blast doing this, and you guys are the reason for it, man. It's fun to talk to you guys and conversate with you guys in the comments and all kinds of stuff. So keep that up, man. But again, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you guys tomorrow.